Hello, my name is Janice. Thank you for joining me this morning or any time of the day that you choose to do this class. This is the 7th live stream that we've been practicing together on YouTube. So this class is based on gentle therapeutic movement and gentle awareness of the inner body. And so of course I encourage you to move with comfort for your body. If something is causing you pain, numbness, tingling, or it's just not available to you, you can just leave it out, move on, take a break. And so before we begin, I wanted to address a few props that you might consider either having for today's class or maybe for next class. So as we move through the practice today, if there is things that you don't have for props, I'm going to show you how you could use or what you could do without them, but I'll just explain how they can be helpful. So up until this point, we have been using a lot of work. We've been doing a lot of work with the fascia. So I'm going to show you a couple different things. We are going to start with our feet today. So we have, some of you have probably seen something like this, like a spiky ball for fascia work. Sometimes people use dryer balls. Apparently they look similar. They're a little softer, the dryer balls, so that might be good for someone who has sensitive feet to have something with some sensation but not too much. This is a cork ball. So it's also designed for fascia work. It's really light because it's made out of cork. And then I have a dowel. But I have started to notice some of my students have been coming to classes with their rolling pin. And so if you have an extra rolling pin hanging around, this could be a great option for your foot. Why I love a rolling pin or a dowel, and dowels are super easy to get made at a hardware store. They'll just cut you a piece for like $3 or $4. So I would say this is the most inexpensive tool if you can get to a hardware store. And so a dowel, I think this one is maybe 3 feet. Yeah, I think so. Something like that. And so if you were using the dowel or the rolling pin, what I like about it is that it lets the whole foot kind of spread out. But what I like about the ball is it gets into little bits and pieces in the foot slightly different. So they're both useful for what we're using today. So if you have something to work on the bottom of the foot, that will be helpful. So ball, stainless steel water bottle could work. Frozen water bottle could work. The next thing would be a belt or a strap or stretchy bands. So you've got some options. So this is a yoga belt, but it really could be your housecoat strap or anything like it, or even a long sort of sturdy scarf. And one thing that I'm really encouraging people to look into obtaining would be some form of a gentle stretching band. So it's a stretchy band, it's got a little bit of a give to it. The green I have today is kind of in the middle. If you have injuries or really sensitive areas in the body, a lighter band is even better. So maybe the red color. I'm using the TheraBand brand, but there's different brands. And I use the non-latex ones, but there is latex and non-latex. So I find the latex are a little sturdier. So we're going to use this one today for some range of motion and adding a little awareness and activation in some muscle groups. If you don't have one today, I'm going to show you how to do everything we do with the band without. And if you don't have a band, then go ahead and find a strap. And this will be used in lieu of the stretchy band today. So those are those tools. Perhaps a little blanket to sit on. And then some of you might have yoga blocks. If you don't have a yoga block, not to worry. A blanket or a small folded towel could be helpful. Even maybe the one you're sitting on you could use through the practice. And that would be for placing in between the thighs to activate the inner adductor muscles. And then we have the outer hip muscles we'll work on as well today. So just take a moment to just check out what you have available. Always there's home options, towels, blankets, pillows, housecoat straps, old belts, water bottles, all those kind of things could be used if you don't have the official props. Knowing that yoga was practiced for thousands of years without props. So just see if you can have those nearby. And let's start with our feet today as a wonderful way to just work into that connective tissue in the body. And so for today, I'm going to use the dowel instead of the ball. Your options are lots of varied. So spiky ball, it could be even something else. I've seen those little boards that have rollers on them that you just roll your feet on. That would be fine as well. I'm going to do one foot at a time. And so But just know that if you are using a dowel, you could do both feet at a time. But I like to kind of check in with one foot at a time. And so as we do that, I'm going to take a moment to just remind people of why this is really helpful for various reasons. So I like to sit a little bit at the edge of my chair, and I have a blanket. I keep a little bit of space here. My sit bones are going to be on the blanket. This is going to allow for a little bit of the pelvis to tilt forward for me. So adjust and make sure you feel comfortable in the chair you're sitting in and that you feel stable. And then we'll sitting on the edge of the chair, but make sure you feel you're securely on the chair. Hands can be on the thigh bones, just avoid the knee joint. And I'm going to start with that rolling through the foot. And I might even lean a little forward. This is already going to add a little bit of extra weight into the foot. And I'm just using this to connect into my foot and just to notice what's going on in my foot today. So if you have injuries in your foot, neuropathy, plantar fasciitis, you might have to do this really easily. You might choose to leave this out, and this is the kind of class where I really encourage people to check in with themselves, and if it's actually aggravating something and causing the body to tense up, then ask yourself if you can back off. Could you do this with less effort and be a little kinder and more curious about the movement? If that's a no, then maybe you leave this out for a moment. You just sit and observe. So as I move the bottom of the foot here, we're working on the connective tissue. I want you to think of fascia. It needs movement. Your connective tissue is the framework that holds your posture. It's around your muscles, bones, joints, organs. It's everywhere. It is considered your sensory organ. And the fascia in the bottom of the foot is really important to keep it moving and hydrated and flexible. Fascia is meant to be stringy and flexible. It's like the TheraBand of your inner body. It has an elastic quality to it that it can stretch and move. But when it doesn't get enough movement, or if there's been an injury, or just a common sort of byproduct of aging, is that our fascia starts to dry out, gets kind of sticky. So instead of sliding in the body and letting everything move with ease, it gets a bit sticky, which can cause a bit of like clickiness in the body, clunkiness, stiffness. It can actually even increase pain in an area of the body, because a lot of the nerves are in the fascia, and when the fascias become really tight and stiff, it might be pressing on that connective tissue, causing more discomfort in the physical body. So addressing the fascia is just as important, maybe even more, if we're working on trying to create easeful movement in the body. So what we're doing on the bottom of the foot here is starting to hydrate the fascia. Fascia needs movement, gentle movement, and it also likes a bit of gentle compression. So what I'm talking about with compression here would be massage. So right now we are adding gentle compression to the sole of the foot as we move whatever you're using under the foot. And so just kind of see, if you would like to add more pressure, you could hinge forward at the hip crease a bit, and that will increase the pressure in the foot. And so just notice how that feels. So you can imagine that if we wear very stable shoes all the time, great for our posture maybe, but potentially creating a lot of stiffness and instability in the fascial layers, which like movement. So that's why moving the foot, flexing the foot, doing all these foot exercises can help with lots of things that come up when the fascia is tight in the bottom of the foot, which can cause cramping in the feet. It can also cause a little bit of instability in the feet, causing us to feel maybe a little more unbalanced. So also circulation and just the awareness of the feet. So we're just going to keep it kind of light and easy today. And so as I roll through the foot one more time, I'm just going to see if I can find a place, maybe in the arch of the foot, where I could rest the dowel or stick or ball. I'm going to take a big breath. On the exhale, I'm going to lean into the dowel a little bit and just see if that little bit of extra pressure feels all right for me. And then when I'm ready to come up, I'm going to gently press into the thighs to come up. One more time, rolling through, maybe the outer edge of the foot a little bit. And then as I come off, now if you are barefoot, what's so interesting to me is that every time I do this, My feet are totally different colors. I don't know if that will pick it up on camera, but one is kind of purple and blotchy that I didn't do, and the other one is a lot more looking like a healthy foot. So it can encourage the blood flow to move deeper into the foot. The one thing I will caution is if you do have the injuries or you have neuropathy where you maybe have a loss of sensitivity in the feet, just be really gentle because you might not necessarily know how much pressure you're putting in if there's a loss of sensation. So go slow. Let's do the other foot. Just working through, and I'm going to give you this time to just explore your own sensitivities and what's going on in your foot today. You might have to keep it really, really light. You might decide to hinge forward a little and add a little more pressure and go a little slower. You might notice some crunchy bits in the foot that, as long as it's not painful, that's common. Again, if it's causing you to feel tension or the body tenses up, then that's a sign just to kind of back off a little bit. Now, okay, so then just see with finding a spot somewhere maybe in the middle of the foot or the arch of the foot, somewhere where it's not painful that maybe you could add a little pressure. We'll take a nice deep breath. Let's hinge forward a little more if you choose, just to add that little extra awareness, sensation, and pressure in the tissue of the foot. Yeah. And just kind of moving through a little more. And then when you're ready to come up, gently pressing into the thighs to come up. You could do the outer edge of the foot. So this would be a great thing to do in the morning and at night. And so if you are using a stick, sometimes if I'm in a little bit of a hurry in the morning, maybe before I go out to practice some balance or do movement, I will use both feet at the same time. If I'm experiencing a lot of like calf cramps or sort of cramping in the back of the leg, I will do this in the morning and before I go to bed, just to help prevent the legs from sort of cramping up in the middle of the night. This can be helpful. And as I mentioned too, it helps us spread out that connective tissue, get more aware of the foot, and the foot really is the base of our awareness of balance. And we're going to do a little balance later on today. So this can be a precursor for your balance. So when you're ready to move on, just taking whatever you've been using and just place it safely out of your way so it's not going to get in your way. I'm going to move all of the, okay. All right, wonderful. So we're starting with our gentle movements for the spine as a base warm-up, and then we're going to add a little layered awareness today of some newer movements that we haven't done yet, and then add in some deeper stretching with the band or the strap. So I'm sitting at the edge of the chair, yeah, and I'll just show you from the side. I'm in a comfortable position so that I can kind of sit up tall. The blanket's just helping the pelvis tilt slightly forward. The knee is under the ankle. Feet are about hip width apart. And the rocking chair, what a wonderful way to start the practice of stretching your lower back. So your hands are on your thighs. You can press into them a little, sitting up tall. As you exhale, let's hinge at the hip crease. And as you come forward, the heels might gently float up. So we're lifting the heels as we hinge forward. As I press into the thigh bones and hinge back to center, heels come down. I'm going to encourage my chin to tuck into this towards the chest as I hinge back a little on the back of the pelvis, and maybe the toes lift. So I'm encouraging you to avoid this with the head, just to protect the neck. So I'm going to sit up, exhale forward. That could be through the mouth or the nose, whatever's available. Inhaling up, exhaling as you lean back. If you have a different sequence of breathing that you prefer, that's fine. Just be mindful we are encouraging our breath to be continuous without any holding patterns. Sometimes we just do it without noticing that we're holding our breath. Good. I'm going to try one more. Inhaling up, foot comes down, exhale forward, heels might lift. Good. Inhaling up and exhaling back. Good. All right. So we're going to take a moment. This is I like to call this like chair child's pose, or a recovery position, or a resting position that might be helpful for you at any time if you need a break. And we'll do our first neck stretch there. So both feet are going to stay on the floor. And take a big breath. I'm going to think of hinging from the hip crease. So as I come forward, I'm going to place the forearms on my thighs. If this is too much, you could push your hands onto your thighs. If this is comfortable, you could even lace your hands together and look just gently down at the floor. Okay, so as you look straight down at the floor, in this position, you think of the back of the neck starting to lengthen. And if it's comfortable, the chin can start coming a little bit closer to the chest, just to stretch some of those back neck muscles. And then for some people, going very, very slowly, bringing the chin a tiny bit over towards one shoulder, maybe millimeters. The neck has just so many little muscle attachments. So I encourage you to really go slowly, pause at center. And if you choose to move a little bit towards the other side, go very slow. There might be a lot of sensation in the neck. Just backing off if it's ever too much. Good. Yeah, and when you're ready, looking straight down at the ground once again. Hands come back to the thighs. As I press into the thighs, I'm going to come up. And we're going to just try some shoulder shrugs with some sigh breaths. So sigh breaths help release carbon dioxide, tension, frustration. They're really helpful. And in your space, if you're home alone, then you can make as much noise and sound as you like. Sometimes we use the ha sound, almost like a H-A, like ha. And so I'm going to add the shoulders, and I'm going to do a slow release for my shoulders today. Some people like to let the shoulders drop quickly. Totally fine if that's your preference. I'm going to do a slow release. So it's called a tension release exercise. So on the inhale, I'm going to bring the shoulders up. On the exhale, try it 2 more times. Good. 1 more time. Good. Wonderful. And then when you're ready, we're going to add some shoulder movements. So sliding the shoulder now. A little bit forward, a little bit up, a little back towards the back of your chair, and down towards your sit bones. So we're inviting this gentle circular motion of the shoulder. And throughout this practice, as I'm encouraging you to really connect into what you're feeling, sometimes for some people, sometimes closing the eyes and taking a moment to really take their awareness a little more into what movements or what body parts we're working with can be helpful. I say some people because sometimes closing the eyes makes people feel dizzy or just unsettled. And if that's the case, then if it's not helpful, then I'm encouraging you to leave it out. Okay, last one. We're going to let the shoulders slide up, gently back, gently down. Good. We're going to bring the elbows close, palms up, just to encourage the shoulders to slide down and under. This position's called scapular stabilization, encourages the nice open posture. And so we're going to go into our spinal movements. So these are sort of everyday movements of your spine. First one is extension and flexion. So it's a seated cat-cow. So if I started with my hands on my knees, I'm going to take a breath in, slide the hands towards my hips and sit up really tall. Maybe even the chin lifting a tiny bit. On the exhale, as my hands slide forward, I'm leaning back at the same time. Think of a cat stretching. So the hands slide over the knee. Inhale, sitting up tall. Exhale, sliding or leaning back, stretching the arms forward. Sitting tall and small. Good. Now as you do this movement, if you're comfortable, you could close your eyes and just notice how maybe the pelvis tilts forward as we sit up tall and the chest moves opening. And as I slide the hands forward and lean back, I can feel my pelvis tucking under and my upper body rounding, chin coming towards the chest. So this is a full spinal movement. If there's sensitivity in your spine, if you're feeling something that's feeling uncomfortable or sensitive, then you can modify this movement. It might be sitting tall, sitting small. Okay, so that would be a nice little gentle version. And if it's feeling really nice for you and kind of a juicy stretch for your back, then you can do a bigger movement, of course, and always moving in your range of motion that's comfortable. Good. Okay. Wonderful. Once you come back up to center, little shoulder roll up, back and down. Good. So we'll do a little twist today just to warm up. So if I put both hands on my knees, I'm going to choose to move to the right first. I'm going to take a breath. On the exhale, I'm going to slide my right hand towards my right hip and look over my right shoulder. And then inhale to center. Exhale, sliding the left hand towards the left hip and turning to look over the left shoulder. Inhale to center. That's it. Good. And last time. Good. Just noticing how that feels to invite in a little bit of a twisting motion in the body. And so today for our side bend, we're going to do one that's a little bit different than we did last week. So for today, I'm going to encourage you to take your right hand and just kind of cross it over to your left thigh. Sometimes people do this, so I'm going to cross it over this way. Then I'm going to take my, right hand across to the left, and I'm going to take my left arm up in the air. So I'm going to encourage my shoulder to relax. Sometimes it's up here. If having your arm up in the air is not optional for your shoulder, you could be here, or you could just lean with the body and leave the shoulder and the arm at your side. So if it's available, the arm reaches up. I'm going to root down through both sit bones into the chair, reaching up through the arm. Take a big breath. And I'm going to reach a little over without my sit bones lifting from the chair. And then coming up. Good. Okay, so now I'm going to take my left hand to the chair. Hold the chair. My right arm is going to stretch out. Now we're doing a little weight transfer and balance exercise. So I'm going to look over towards my left hand, or right hand. I'm going to lean and reach, and then I'm going to follow the arm up. So this time you're probably going to notice your sit bones are going to start shifting a little bit. So as I extend the right arm and lean and reach, my left sit bone is going to lift a bit, which is why I'm holding the chair on the left side so I don't fall out of the chair. And good. And I'll do one more, adding a side bend at the end of this to the other side. So reaching with the right as I come all the way back up to center. I'm going to try a little bend to the other side. And back. Okay, wonderful. So now I'm going to take my left hand across to the right thigh, just like so, and the right arm is going to come up. So I'm going to encourage both sit bones to stay rooted in the chair, reaching and lengthening through the spine, deep breath, and just a tiny bit over. So keeping those sit bones rooted doesn't have to be a big action in side bending to get the benefit. Less is more. Reaching up. Good. So now we'll take the right hand to the chair and the left hand extends. Good. I'm going to look for the left hand here. I'm going to lean and reach. Now my body weight has shifted, so I have shifted a bit in my chair. And I'm going to float up, back to center. Let the hand float down. I'm going to try that 2 more times. Reaching, leaning, and reaching up. That's it. Good. This last one, we're going to add a side bend to the right. So reaching, leaning to the left. And then as you come up and your sit bones root, relax your shoulder and a little bit over. That's it. Very good. Okay. So one more movement that I'd like to introduce today, one for the pelvis and the hips, and then one for the whole upper torso part of the body. And then we're going to focus on the shoulders for a little bit. So I'm sitting at the edge of the chair, and I just want you to see if you can notice how it feels to shift your weight to one sit bone, back to center, and to the other sit bone. Okay, good. So we've done already movement on the front of the sit bones, sides of the sit bones, back of the sit bones. So when we leaned back in our child or our rocking chair, when we come forward, and then we've done side to side. So now we're going to warm this up and see if we can go in a circle. So I'm going to encourage you to shift your weight over to one sit bone, and then forward, and then over to the other sit bone, and then a little bit onto the back of the sit bone, and over, and forward, and around. So just see if you can really focus on it's just the weight shifting, the body weight shifting from one sit bone to the front, and then to the other, to the side, to the back. Okay. Very good. Try the other direction. Around you go. Really nice little warm up for the lower body, lower back, pelvis. Okay. All right, now we're going to add on to this, and this is a new movement, and this one might take more than one try for you to really go, oh yeah, okay, I get it. So again, there's a layered base of awareness here, but I want you to visualize that you are in the center of a hula hoop. Okay, there's a hula hoop around your body. And essentially we're doing the same movement we just did with the pelvis, but we're going to see if we can get our thoracic spine or our mid-chest involved, and maybe even the rib cage involved in this movement. So if I was in the middle of a hula hoop, you could start with leaning your upper back. I'll show you from the side, it might be easier to see. Okay, so here I am, I'm sitting in the center of my imaginary hula hoop. I'm going to try to bring the back rib cage to the back of the hula hoop, and now my side rib over to the side, and then forward, and then over, and back. So it's the same motion we started with, except we're adding the awareness of the mid-chest. Okay, so, and again, this might be a place where there might not be a lot of movement for some bodies. Just see if you can just keep that awareness of the chest moving forward to the front of the hula hoop, to the side, to the back, to the other side, forward. Try the other direction a couple times, to the side, back, side, forward, side, back, side, forward. Really good warm up for the whole body. That's it, for the whole torso, I would say. Trunk of the body. Good. Okay. And once you've come back to your first position, right? All right, so anytime in this class, or really throughout your day, if you're finding that you're sitting in a chair and you're starting to slouch, or you're just feeling that nagging in the lumbar spine, some people have heard of a fancy word called traction. Traction is about creating space around the joints. Gentle traction is something we can practice with our hip joint, our shoulder joint, and the lumbar spine. Sometimes the neck, but not in this class. So what I wanted to share with you is we've already done a little traction for your back, but a great seated stretch. If you're having lower back grumpiness, that's a technical term, hands on my thighs, when we hinge forward to here, to a comfortable hinged forward position, and then lift the heels, this adds a very gentle bit of traction for the lumbar spine, meaning creating some space where we might be a little bit bunched together in the lumbar spine. Pretty common in most bodies. So I'm going to encourage you to do that anytime you decide you need a little break, or coming into even just this folded version, you can even lift the heels here. So please feel free to leave out anything that you just think is not going to work for you today. Shoulder roll it back and down. Good. So let's move into the shoulders now. So I'm going to start with just some gentle shoulder awareness and warm-ups, and then we're going to add in some of that awareness with the stretchy band, which you might use today and you might leave it out. All right, so take a moment with the shoulders rolling up, back, and down. Good. Elbows close, palms up. This position is just encouraging the shoulders to slide down and under, taking the arms out to the sides. Good. So the hand, the elbow, the shoulder, the wrist, they all move together. So let's explore that a little bit. Rolling the hand in, shoulder rolls in, rolling the thumbs back, shoulder rolls back, chest opens. Just notice that in your body. Could even bring your chin to your chest as the hands roll forward. And as you roll the thumbs back, looking forward. There we go. Let's try that one more time. Good. Okay, now from here, I'm going to curl the fingers in and then the thumb gently, curling the hand into the shoulder. And then I'm just going to encourage you to see where your elbows go comfortably. If you have an injury, you might hit a spot that's like a locked gate. I am not encouraging you to push beyond that. I'm encouraging you to just notice, which might mean that the arm extension looks a little different in both arms. Totally fine. So I'm going to just see where the elbows go comfortably without the shoulders coming up to the ears. I'm going to try to relax the shoulders, see where the elbows go comfortably. And then from here, I'm going to unfurl. So it's a way to check out your shoulder range of motion. And this is going to be different for everybody. And then down. Okay. Yeah, so now we'll do the circles. So you could start with little circles. They might stay small. If you have an active injury in the shoulder, I am going to encourage you to keep the movements very small so that we can maintain some easefulness. So if there's a shoulder injury, likely there's some fascia that's gone from movable and flexible to very stiff and very tight as a protective mechanism in your body. So if we try to push it, that fascia is just going to keep holding that tension as a protective mechanism. But if we start to slow it down, find easeful range of motion, fascia uses that movement to relax and add a little hydration, and you might find a little more ease in that joint or in that range of motion. So try the other direction. Not dissimilar to if you've ever had someone offer you a foot rub or a neck rub, and at first it's really lovely, and then they go a little too deep and you kind of feel your body stiffen up. So the first thing to stiffen up before your muscles do in that protective mechanism is the connective tissue. So we're trying to keep it easeful, so explore. All right, so now the elbows are out to the sides. I'm going to bring them towards each other, chin towards the chest. And then as I look forward, I'm just going to gently encourage the elbows to move behind me. And I'm going to try that 2 more times. Elbows towards each other, chin towards my chest. Looking forward, elbows coming gently behind me, wherever they go comfortably. And then last one. Yeah, there we go. Very good. Wonderful. So then as the elbows relax here, let's just shake out the hands. Very good. Okay, so let's do one more movement to just explore your range of motion. So it's as if we were holding a baby or we have our elbows locked. We're holding our opposite elbows. And then I'm going to encourage you to start with some movement. So rocking the arms side to side. And you might notice that your range of motion today in this movement is here. And so of course I'm definitely encouraging you to find a range of motion where you can still breathe. There might be some sensation of stretching or some discomfort, but sharp pain, no. Tingles, no. None of that. And then you might choose to invite that bigger range of motion. The arms might come all the way around. See if you can do that 2 times in one direction. And let's try the other direction. So try the other direction, reaching up and around and down. And up and around and down. Very good. Wonderful. Good. And as you shake out the arms here, this one's great. If you have wrist and tension issues in the wrists, we'll talk about that before when we start to work with gripping things. So the next thing we're going to do is add in a little bit of some tension into the shoulder or some awareness. So if you're using a band, we're going to just bring the elbows close, palms up like so. Okay? And just make a gentle fist so your thumbs are on the outside. Encouraging a nice hold where you're not gripping so much that your knuckles are white. So we want enough that we can hold that band, but not so much that we're gripping. Another healthy reminder is not to put on hand lotion before you do these. I did that the other day and I realized that's a bad idea. So I'm going to make a gentle little fist, okay? And this motion, I'm just gently pulling Now the elbows are staying where they are. If you do not have a band today, and you're like, well, what if I don't have a band? Then, instead of doing this with some gentle resistance, we've done this one before. So this is for the rotator cuff. By adding a little bit of gentle resistance, it may help with encouraging a little bit of muscle recruitment and a little more active awareness in those muscles. But if you don't have a band today, do the movement without. Or if using the band, you're like, oh, it's really hurting my shoulder injury. Then go back to no resistance, just gentle range of motion. Both are beneficial, just slightly different focus. So when we're using the band, we're really starting to sense some awareness in the back body. Okay, good, little shoulder roll. Good. Okay, so the next movement, if you are ready to do the next movement here, we're going to do a little shoulder stretch. So I'm going to take one hand out in front of me, and I'm going to hold that band. So let's do the left hand, that way we're all on the same page. If you're not using a TheraBand or a stretchy band, you could be using your house coat strap. So for this one, it's just a stretch, so you could use this as well. I will show you both. So I'm going to take my arm up in the air, wherever goes comfortably for me. This may be that one arm does not go overhead. If you have a frozen shoulder you're dealing with and your arm just won't go there, then I'm going to offer you a different option. Okay? So if your arm goes up overhead like so, or straight up in the air, that's great. Then you're going to bend the elbow and just see where it goes. And so behind you, you will have your band, and the other arm might come around and take a hold of the strap. Just like so. Okay? Good. Now, this is not a tension exercise. This is a flossing exercise. So what I could do is just see if I extend the top arm, bend the lower arm. So I'm just adding a little bit of movement. This might not be an option for you today. So if this is not an option for you today, meaning that this arm will not go overhead comfortably for you, then you could leave this arm at your side and just work on this, what we call baby bird wing, which is taking one arm behind you, palm facing out. And you might just be working with this today. On one side, maybe the other side is completely different. That's very common in shoulders. Okay? And often people do it without straps, and they just bring their hands towards each other. All right, so when you're ready, if you were using a strap, it would be no different. I'll just show you. You can hold the strap, straighten one arm. So it's not a strength exercise, it's just range of motion, a little bit of a stretch. Okay, very good. All right, so if I take the left arm down, let's shake out both arms, a little shoulder roll. Good. And then whatever tool you've decided to use, let's try it on the other side. So I'm taking the strap or the band in the other arm. For me, I'm going to use the right arm now. And I'm just going to stretch up the arm in the air and just see if that's comfortable for me. And then if it is, I'm going to bend at the elbow and just see if the hand comes behind me. And if there's some part of that band or strap behind me that I can take hold of. If this becomes frustrating, you can't reach for it, then know that you could do this stretch like this. Pat yourself on the back, other hand behind you. They might come towards each other. They might never ever come towards each other. So that's fine. And then once you're here, you can add that little bit of bending and straightening. That's it. So the top arm straightens, the lower arm bends more, then I straighten my lower arm a bit and the top arm bends. Very good. Okay, when you're ready, I'm going to bring that arm around and I'm going to shake out the arms. Okay, so let's just take a moment before we move on. You might just leave your band on the top of your thighs. A little shoulder roll, a little shrug. Let's address the wrists and all the things we can do in between using the bands to help the wrists stay, or the hands and the wrists stay happy and not get too much tension. So the first thing I wanted to do, we did this last week, I'm going to bring the fingertips together, just the fingertips, yeah, and the elbows can float out to the sides. I'm going to point my fingers towards the front of me and then towards me, or so. Just see what's comfortable here for you today. That's it. Very good. And then if it's comfortable for you, as your fingers are pointing up, you could lace the fingers together. And as you stretch the arms forward, leaning into your upper back, like our cat stretch, chin towards your chest. Good. Yeah, and then as you come up, just let the arms come down. Little shoulder roll. Good. Okay. So we're going to work a little bit now with the lower body. And so I'm going to give you some options with your band and your strap. I really prefer the stretchy band for this one, but if you don't have one, I am going to show you both. So I'm going to start you off with the TheraBand and show you how we're going to use it. And then I will show you how to use the strap if you don't have a stretchy band. And if you're curious about where to get them, massage therapists, sometimes rehab therapists have them. I've seen them at like London Drugs, Canadian Tire, lots of places, online too. Fairly simple to buy. Great because they're just so portable. They're light, they're easy to use, easy to clean, and you can do so much with them. Okay, so I'm going to take it under one foot. And so let's start with the right foot. I'm going to take the band under my foot. Okay. Maybe under like the arch of the foot. And I'm going to hold it on the sides, kind of like easy breezy here. I'm sitting at the edge of the chair. And I'm going to lean back a little and bring the leg up. Okay. So if I was using the strap, same thing. Could be your housecoat strap. I'll lean back and bring the leg up. Okay. So you're about here. Very good. So we're going to be extending the leg down and up. So this can be done with the strap. It just isn't going to give you that awareness of resistance. And so this motion is pushing the foot down towards the floor, scooping up and bending. Okay? So with the band, it's going to feel different because you have a tensional tool that we're working with, which is really helpful. So it would look a little different. I'm going to push down and up. Pushing down and up. That's it. Good. One more if you can. Know that you can stop at any time. Good. Now that my leg's out, I'm going to take it a little out to the side and in. A little out to the side and in. And then I'm going to try a little circle. Very good. Okay. Now I'm going to place the foot on the floor. So the heel is going to come to the floor. I'm going to keep holding this. Now, what I like to do with the band is try to connect it a little more under the ball of my foot and pull it back and then push against it. So I'm trying to point my toe and release. This is a great one if you have some foot weaknesses. And this one's great for balance. All right. You can tell it's a live show. Pushing and pointing. That's it. Very good. Okay. Wonderful. So let's take a moment here to do a little hamstring stretch. I'm going to hold the strap on either side, sitting up tall, big breath. And I'm going to just lean forward a little bit. Keep reaching and pulling those toes back towards you for this one. Good. Yeah, and then as you come up, very good. Let's put the foot down and put the other foot in the strap or the band. Okay. So, if you've got it in there, I'm going to lean back, bringing the foot up, and now I'm going to push down, scoop up and in. That's it. Push down, scooping up and in. That's it. Good. And then this time as the leg extends, if it's comfortable for you, just see if it feels all right to take the leg a little out to the side and in, a little out to the side and in. And then maybe a circle, and then maybe the other direction. Just noticing where the sensation is. There might be a little sensation in the hip crease here. Good. And then resting the foot on the floor. Good. Pulling the toes back, sitting up tall, big breath, and maybe hinging forward a little bit. Good. Take a breath. Yeah. And then when you're ready to come up, as you come up, the foot comes down. Very good. You take your band out. Okay. So you can do this with a band or a strap. With a band, it's a little more dynamic. We can do a little more of activation in the muscle group, but you can still get that awareness with a strap. So I'm going to show you both. So you're going to bring your feet right together, and I'm going to place the band on the top of my legs, like so, like a dinner napkin. And then I'm going to see if I can wrap it underneath. Now, if this is not an easy option, I have seen people also just wrap it one time. Depends on the length of your strap. You might just, you know, tie it up like so and do that. But I find if I start at the top, like so, cross it underneath and bring it around, I don't even have to tie it. I can just hold both sides and I'm pretty secure here. All right, so we're activating these outer hip muscles, these outer abductor muscles. So I'm going to take a big breath. On the exhale, I'm going to push it out only as far as is comfortable for me and in. Now, if I keep my feet flat on the floor, my range of motion will be limited for the hip. You could be curious about allowing the feet to roll and adding a little bigger range of motion. Go slow. I want you to see how it feels to go very slowly through these movements. Yeah, good. See if you can try one or two more of those. Good. Last one, maybe holding it in a place that's comfortable for you to hold and keep breathing. Good. And then take a break. All right. As you unravel, good. You can just take a moment. Now, just leave your strap for a moment. If you were using, or your band, if you were using a strap for that, just to know that you would be pushing against it and then releasing. And pushing against the strap and then releasing. And you're definitely going to get the activation of the muscle group, just slightly. It's a different range of motion. It's a different sort of function of the muscle group, but essentially we're still recruiting the outer hip muscles. So just know that even if it didn't have any give, if you wrapped yourself up with a strap and held it, and then lean outwards with the thigh bones, you'll sense that outer leg activation and then release. Okay, so if you don't have a strap or a band, stretchy band, you can still get that activation of the outer hip. So the outer hip and the outer thigh and inner thigh, these are two really important muscle groups, and I'm just going to talk about them a little bit more today as some awareness for our class. So the outer hip and inner hip, we want a little bit of even muscle tension or muscle strength in those two groups to help the pelvis and the back stay happy and stable. So we have outer hip, which we've already activated a little bit, but what about the inner thigh muscles? These muscles feed into our deep core line in the body. And so there's a couple options here. You can leave your strap for a moment. You could have a yoga block if you have one. And if you don't, it could be a little thin pillow from your sofa or something, or a little folded towel that you could put between your thighs. Okay? So whatever you're using, it's just in between the thighs. Make sure it's not hitting your knee in any uncomfortable position. Okay? I'm going to use my block. Okay. So I'm sitting a little at the edge of the chair. Now, I encourage you with this activation to go slow and make sure it's feeling comfortable for you. So I'm just holding it here. I'm not squeezing it. I'm going to take a breath. On the exhale, I'm going to gently squeeze the block. Inhale, relax. Exhale, squeeze the block. Good. If you find that it's causing you a sensation of discomfort, then I'm going to ask you to first try, what about half effort? Maybe you were squeezing the block 100% and maybe 50% is a more acceptable amount of effort for you. Good. So these inner thigh muscles are actually the ones that feed into the deep core line in your body, the pelvic floor, the transverse abdominals. You might feel like your front body kind of activates a little bit as you do so, and then release. Very good. Maybe one more. That's it. Super. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my block now. Okay, And I'm going to just take a moment to stretch my lower back. So I'm going to take both hands are going to lace underneath one leg. I'm going to lean forward, and I'm going to lift up that one heel of my right leg. And I'm going to lean back, bring the leg with me. Just do a little movement of the ankle here. All right, we're going to do nose towards the knee, and they're just going in that general direction. So I'm going to sit up tall. On the exhale, curling forward, nose towards my knee. They don't have to touch. Inhale up and down. My teacher would always say that yoga is a journey, right? There's no destination. We're not trying to get anywhere. We're trying to explore ranges of motion that are manageable. So I'm going to take my hands under the other leg. Heel lifts. As I lean back and bring the leg with me, sitting up tall, let's just do a little movement of the foot. That's it. Okay. And then when you're ready, big breath in. And then curling in, nose towards your knee. Good. And coming out. Okay. Once your foot's on the ground. Okay, so we've done lots of work here for our body in a chair today. I always like to do a little bit of standing. One thing is for that important psoas muscle, so the muscle that connects your leg to your spine or to your body. So we're going to stand. That is a great option even in your day. If you're sitting for a longer extended period of time, can you just stand up for a few minutes and then go back to seated? It's really, really helpful. And that's a really nice way to just start to get that front body stretching because we're activating right now in the hip crease. So let's come out of a chair within a range of motion or in a technique that works for you. I'm going to give you a suggestion of bringing your heels a little closer to the chair. Think of your heels as your leverage to push you out of the chair. The missing part of this is nose over knee. So the rhyme is, I didn't make it up. I don't know who made it up actually, but it's a good one. For getting out of a chair, there's two things you want to think of. And that would be, from the side you can see better, okay? Knee over toe instead of knee over ankle. I want my heels to be on the ground, however. So if I'm so close that I can't get my heels down, I want my heels to be that main part that pushes me out of the chair, not the front of the foot. So I'm going to try to just have the heels. Where are the heels comfortable? Maybe for you it's one foot a little further closer to the chair and one foot out, depending on your comfort. Okay, so that's the first part. Knees over toes. Second part, nose over knees. What that means is I'm going to hinge forward until my nose is over my knees. Now there's more weight in my feet and I can press into the heels to come up. You still might need to add a little momentum like a rocking. You might even choose to use the sides of the chair to help propel you up. All of that is optional. And then once you're up, once you're standing, take a moment, bend the knees, sink into your feet, make sure you feel grounded, and then press into the heels to come up to standing. All right, so I'm going to come to the back of my chair. I'm going to move my chair out of the way so you can see me. But in your space that you're in, I'm encouraging you to have something in front of you that you can hold on to if you need it, like a just in case kind of situation. And make sure all your props are not in your way. So do a little scan of your room and make sure that you don't have anything that's going to trip you up on your way to the back of the chair. Okay. Once you're at the back of the chair, if you are comfortable, we had those options today that we've already done this, where we had a block between the thighs when we were seated, or it was a blanket that you had between the thighs. Both work. So whatever you've got, okay? I'm going to use the block because I have one. They're a bit lighter. So, and by the way, you can get these at Canadian Tire for I think $10. So they're fairly easy to find, these ones. So I'm going to place it between the thighs. This is going to give me about relatively hip width apart, depending on your hips. I'm going to bend my knees, sink into the feet. Okay. I might lift the toes, gently spread them out and place them on the floor. Really try to spread out the foot and think of 3 points of awareness for the foot. The mound under the big toe, the mound under your pinky toe, and under your heel. Think of pressing into those 3 points like a tripod, feeding up into the legs. Now, good. I'm going to just gently squeeze that block gently. So I would say 50% effort. So I'm not squeezing it so much that I can't maintain it or it's causing me discomfort. I'm just gently hugging that block, and that will bring us into pelvic neutral. which means our pelvis isn't tilting forward or back. It's just right. All right. And then I'm going to gently roll my shoulders up and back and down. One more time. Up, back, and down. And then bring the elbows close, palms up. Good. Good. From here, I'm going to bring the hands to the heart center. My preference is to keep some space between my fingers. I'm going to gently press the fingers or the palms into each other. Think of the back of the neck lengthening. Good. All right, so I want you to imagine that you are a mountain. This is called Tadasana. It's this mountain pose. I'm pressing down through my heels as if I was a mountain, grounded and rooted. So from about the waist down, I feel grounded downward. From the waist up, I'm lengthening as if I was being pulled by a string on the crown of the head up to the sky. Now I'm going to encourage you to find a space where you can find a gaze, a focal point in front of you on the floor. And I want you to see, just go slow, know that you have something in front of you for balance, and that if any time you feel unstable in this practice, you're going to bend your knees and take a moment to hold on to something that's nearby. Bending your knees is your first defense when you are feeling out of balance. If you're feeling wobbly, feeling like you're going to fall over, I want you to take your surfer position every time, and this will ground you down into your feet. Okay? So let's go back to that focal point. Rooting down through the heels, lengthening through the crown of the head. Just see if you can shift your weight just to the front of the foot. The heels don't have to lift. And then if that string that's on the crown of your head pulls you back to your center, where you feel you're fully in your center. Now just see if you can shift your weight a little bit onto the heels, just a tiny bit. And back to center. Now for some people, when they lean back a little bit, they'll notice that their legs start gripping that block. That's because your core muscles work to keep you from falling over. All right, and then a little bit of shifting onto one foot, center, and onto the other foot. Center. Very good. Wonderful. Wonderful. Now take our arms out to the sides. If your hands can comfortably rest on the shoulders, that's great. I'm going to take a big breath. And I'm going to turn. Good. Inhale to center. And exhale to turn. And try that one more time. Wonderful. And then as you come back to center, I'm going to let my arms come down beside me. If your arm can reach up, I'm going to let my arm reach up. If the arm does not want to come up, you can do a side bend without the extension of the arm. So I'm going to lengthen and reach through the fingers, relaxing the shoulder down away from the ear, rooting through the feet, deep breath. And I'm going up, 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 and a tiny bit over. So it's not about big bending, it's about lengthening as we bend. Rather than collapsing over, I'm lengthening as I bend. So it's smaller with side bending. Good. Let's try the other side. I'm going to extend the arm up, reaching, running the shoulder to relax. Lengthening up, 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 and a teeny tiny bit over. And then back to center. Very good. That's it. Okay, so we've done a little bit of spinal movements there. I'm going to invite you to take this out. And so the last thing I wanted to share with you today is one of my all-time favorite sort of awakening, enlivening, kind of energetic movements. And if you decide that you'd like to sit for this, you are most welcome to do so. So if you'd like to take that time to come and sit and just do the arm movements without standing, if that's your preference today, or if that's what's going to be the most beneficial to you, please feel free to do that. I'm going to have my feet a little wider than my hips. And I'm going to turn my feet a little bit out, just a tiny bit, so I feel stable. And if I had a little spring in my knees, just this tiny little bounce. And we're going to start with some movements for the shoulders. And if you have had an injury in the shoulder, just know that your arm movement could be this big. Totally fine. Maybe it's bigger for you. That's fine too. Some big breaths. Good. Now in this movement, we are starting to stir up those fluids in the body. And what an interesting fact that most of your body's fluids, guess where they live? In your fascia. Your fascia holds most of your body's water. And this is a great way to get those fluids moving up through the upper body. That's it. Good. You might sense a whooshing in the fingers and likely your shoulders getting tired or you're bored. Let's try the other direction. So see if you can go in the other direction. Big breaths. This one's great in front of an open window in the morning. That's it. 2 and 1. Very good. And then as the arms come down, good, I'm going to turn my feet forward. Now this one is great, especially if you're in your own space. If you're in a shared group, I'm not doing a lot of forced big breaths in big group settings. So choose accordingly. So you could do it without the ha breath and it would like so. But if you're alone and you feel like you'd like to make some louder expressive sound, it would look like this. Ha! Yeah, great for getting out tension from the body. I'm going to do 2 more of those. Inhale. Ha! Ha! One more light one. Ha! Good, I'm going to let the arms swing. So feet are pointing forward. The last thing we're doing is the palm tree twist today. So as you pause here, there might be that opposite foot lifting a little bit as you allow the whole body to kind of twist a little bit. And you could allow the arms to just kind of tap on the sides of the body. I always imagine my arms are just like noodles tapping on the sides of the body. That's it. Very good. And then just coming to a still point when you're ready. So just a pause. And if you're comfortable and it does not create dizziness for you, you might, as you come to stillness, take a moment with your eyes closed to notice the sensations that come up from that series of movements. Sometimes when the fascia and the fluids start moving, we get a little fuzzy sensation in the body, tingly. Yeah. And when you're ready, as you open your eyes, very good. So if you're seated, I'll invite you to stay seated. And if you're standing, I'm going to invite you to stay standing for a moment. We're just going to take our hands to the heart center. And our last 3 breaths together for this practice. So let's see if we can take a sigh breath in the nose, out the mouth. Thank yourself for showing up to do this practice. One more breath in. Acknowledge all your body does for you every day. And one more breath. Thinking of one thing you're grateful for in this moment. As you're ready, we're going to take a moment to give yourself a big hug, whether you're seated or standing. If you're standing, you can bend your knees and hinge at the hip crease a little to get a little back stretch. And if you're in a chair, you would hinge forward a little bit. And as you come up, whichever arm's on top, you're going to switch. Big breath, big bear hug, hinging forward. Wonderful. So thank you so much for your practice today. I hope you have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. And if you're curious about knowing when these live classes or in some other videos that I post that are not live, on your screen down on the right side it says subscribe. And if you add that, then when new videos come up, when you come to YouTube, they will come up first on that page for you. So thank you so much for your practice today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.